You've been sitting in front of the charts longer than usual, but you're not really looking at them, not the way you used to. You're there, but you're not leaning in anymore. The candles move, and you see them move, but something between seeing and caring has gone quiet. You used to feel something building when price approached a level. Now you notice it the way you notice a car passing on the street. It's happening. You see it. It doesn't land anywhere inside you. You opened your trading journal 2 days ago and stared at the last entry. It was from 3 weeks before that. You didn't forget to journal. You sat down to do it multiple times. You opened the spreadsheet, you looked at the tabs, you closed it, not because you were avoiding the loss, not because you were hiding from a mistake, because the act of writing it down felt like translating something that didn't need translation anymore, like describing a dream to someone who wasn't there. The meaning was in the experience, and pulling it apart into columns made it less true, not more. You think this means you stopped caring about process. You have told yourself you are slipping. You are not slipping. The process you built was a scaffold, and you are not inside the scaffold anymore, and you have not noticed yet that you are still standing. There is a group chat you muted. You didn't leave. You just stopped reading it. They are talking about the same trade you are in, and someone is saying they are up 30%, and someone else is saying they got stopped out, and the whole conversation is happening in a language you remember speaking, but do not speak now. You used to write paragraphs in that chat. You used to post your entries. You used to feel something when they reacted. Now when you open it, you scroll past, and you feel something closer to fatigue than connection. You think this means you are isolating. You are not isolating. You are just done explaining. You used to need to know what other people thought about a setup before you took it. Not in a way you admitted, but you would check. You would scroll. You would see if anyone else was saying the thing you were seeing. And if they were, it felt like confirmation. And if they were not, it felt like doubt. Now you look at a setup and something in you decides without checking, and you take the trade, or you do not, and you do not feel the need to know if someone else saw it. This frightens you. You have interpreted this as arrogance or detachment. It is neither. It is just that the location of your conviction moved, and you think because it is quieter, it is not there. Someone posted a win yesterday. You saw it. You did not feel anything. Not envy, not motivation, not even happiness for them. You notice this absence like noticing a symptom. You think it means you have become bitter or numb. You are not bitter. You are not numb. You have just stopped using other people's results as a mirror. Their wins do not tell you where you are anymore. Their losses do not either. This used to be how you oriented yourself. Now you are trying to orient yourself the same way, and the mechanism is not working, and you think the mechanism breaking means you are broken. You watched 15 minutes of a trading video last week and turned it off. Not because it was bad. Because you already knew what they were going to say. Not in an arrogant way. In a tired way. You could see the structure of the lesson. You could predict the example. You could hear the advice forming before they gave it. And none of it was wrong, but none of it was for you anymore. You were trying to force yourself to keep learning the way you used to learn, and your brain is refusing, and you are calling that refusal laziness. It is not laziness. You have just already absorbed what that kind of content teaches, and now you are looking for something else without knowing what it is, or that you are looking. Your position sizes got smaller. You did not decide this consciously. You just started entering trades, and when you went to type the quantity something and you typed a smaller number, you told yourself you would scale back up once you proved you could be consistent again. But that is not what happened. What happened is that the size that used to feel significant started feeling like noise. Not because you are afraid of loss. You have lost before. Bigger. You did not scale down then. You scaled down now because something in you stopped being interested in the feeling that size used to produce. The adrenaline, the heart rate spike, the refresh. You think you lost your edge. You did not lose your edge. You lost your need for the feeling of having an edge. You are about to quit. You have not said it out loud, but you are trying the sentence on in your head. You are telling yourself that maybe this is not for you. That maybe the people who make it have something you do not have. That maybe you gave it a real try, and it is okay to walk away. And part of you feels relief when you think this and that. Relief is what scares you most, because you think it means you never wanted it enough. But the relief is not about wanting it less. The relief is about permission to stop performing wanting it. There was a version of you that needed trading to feel like something every single day. That needed to wake up thinking about it and go to sleep thinking about it and check the phone in the middle of the night. That version of you used to feel like dedication. Now when you think about that version, you feel exhausted. You think this exhaustion means you are burned out. Maybe. But maybe it means you are done treating trading like a religion that requires constant devotion to prove you belong in it. You stopped posting your trades. You did not make an announcement. You just stopped. Someone asked you last week what you were in, and you told them, and they asked why. And you started to explain, and then you stopped because you realized you did not want to. Not because the reason was secret, because explaining it felt like performing it, and you did not want to perform it. You wanted to just be in the trade. They thought you were being cagey. You were not being cagey. You just did not want to turn the trade into a story before it was finished. You have been thinking about changing your strategy, not because it is not working, it is working. The same way it was working before. Same win rate, same risk reward, same everything. but you are thinking about changing it because you do not feel like the person who built it anymore. You have rewritten your plan. You have moved rules around. You have told yourself you are optimizing, but you are not optimizing. You are trying to make the plan fit a person you are becoming without knowing who that person is, or if you want to be them. There is a trade you took last month that went exactly according to plan. You entered where you said you would enter. It moved the way you thought it would move. You exited where you said you would exit. You made money. And when it was over, you felt nothing. You did not feel satisfaction. You did not feel validation. You felt the same as you felt before the trade. You thought this meant something was wrong. Maybe it means the trade was just a trade. Maybe that is what it feels like when you stop needing trades to prove something about you. You got stopped out last week. It was a good trade. The setup was clean. The risk was managed. The market just did what the market does. And you looked at the loss, and you felt something, but the something was not what it used to be. It was not anger. It was not frustration. It was not even disappointment. It was closer to acknowledgement. Like, yes, this is what happened, and now it is over. This terrifies you. You think it means you stopped caring about the money. Maybe you did. Or maybe you just stopped believing that one loss means anything about whether you know what you are doing. You have thought about taking a break, a real one, not a few days, a few months. You have thought about what it would feel like to close the charts and not look at them and not think about them and just let the whole thing go for a while. And when you imagine this, you do not feel panic. You used to think if you stepped away you would lose everything you built. Now you think maybe you would just see if you miss it. This question has become more interesting to you than the question of whether you can make money. You do not know what that means. You think it means you are giving up. Maybe it means you are finally asking the right question. Someone told you last week that you seemed different. They did not say it like a compliment. They said it like an observation that made them uncomfortable. You asked what they meant, and they said you used to be more into it. You did not argue. You did not explain. You just said, yeah, maybe. And later you thought about that conversation, and you tried to figure out if they were right, if you are less into it. And you realized you do not know what into it means anymore. You are doing the same things. You are taking trades. You are managing risk. You are following your plan, but you are doing it quieter. You are doing it with less commentary. You are doing it without needing it to feel like anything other than what it is. And that feels like less. To them, to you. But maybe it is not less. Maybe it is just different, and you are both mistaking different for lesser. You used to argue with people about trading. Not in a mean way, in a passionate way. Someone would say something you disagreed with, and you would write 3 paragraphs about why they were wrong, and you would go back and forth, and it felt like it mattered. Now someone says something you disagree with, and you just keep scrolling. You do not feel the need to correct them. You do not feel the need to defend your perspective. You just think, okay, they think that, and you move on. You are interpreting this as apathy. It is not apathy. You just stopped needing to be right out loud. Your morning routine changed. You used to have a whole thing. You would wake up and check the overnight moves and read the news and look at 5 different time frames and write down your plan and review your rules. It took an hour. Now you wake up and you look at the chart for 3 minutes and you know what you are going to do. You are not skipping steps. The steps are just inside you now instead of on a checklist. But because you are not performing them, you think you are not doing them. You think you got sloppy. You did not get sloppy. You just compressed what used to take an hour into 3 minutes. Because you do not need to prove to yourself that you are preparing anymore. There is a trade you are in right now. It is boring. It is just sitting there, doing what you thought it would do, slowly. And you are not watching it. You checked it this morning. You will check it tonight. But you are not refreshing it. You are not moving your stop. You are not thinking about it. It is just open. And this feels wrong to you. You think you should be more engaged. You think you should be watching it tick by tick, but you do not want to. And you are trying to figure out if that means you do not care, or if it means you finally trust it to do what it is going to do without you watching it. You have stopped looking for the perfect entry. You used to wait. You used to watch a setup develop and wait for the exact right moment. And sometimes you would wait so long the moment would pass, and you would miss it, and you would be angry at yourself for not pulling the trigger. Now you see a setup, and if it is good enough, you take it. Not perfect. Good enough. And this feels like lowering your standards. But your win rate did not change. Your results did not change. The only thing that changed is you stopped needing the entry to feel perfect before you could take it. You stopped needing trading to feel like art. You started letting it be work. Someone asked you for advice. A new trader. They wanted to know how you got consistent. And you started to answer, and then you stopped because you realized you do not remember what you did. Not because it was so long ago. Because the things you did do not feel like things you did anymore. They feel like things that happened, like you were there but you were not driving. And this is not false humility. This is not you pretending you do not know. You genuinely do not know how to reverse engineer what happened inside you and turn it into steps someone else can follow. You think this means you do not understand your own process. Maybe it means your process is not a process anymore. Maybe it is just you trading. You have thought about going back to the way you used to do it. The journals, the reviews, the routines, the structure. You have thought about forcing yourself back into those behaviors because at least when you were doing them, you felt like you were doing something. And every time you think about this, you feel heavy. Not resistance, not rebellion, just heavy, like putting on a coat that does not fit anymore. You have not done it yet. You are close. You think if you do it, you will feel like a traitor again. You will not. You will feel like someone pretending to be the traitor they used to be. You are in a drawdown. Not a big one, just a normal one. The kind that happens. 3 losses in a row. You looked at them. You checked if you followed your plan. You did. You checked if you made a mistake. You did not. You checked if there was something to learn. There was not. It was just variance. And you moved on. You did not spiral. You did not question everything. You did not post about it. You did not need to process it with anyone. You just saw it and accepted it and kept going. This is new. This is so new it does not feel real to you yet. You think maybe you are in denial. Maybe you are suppressing something. Maybe you are not letting yourself feel it. You are feeling it. You just do not need it to mean anything anymore. You used to celebrate wins, not publicly, but privately. You would close a good trade and you would feel it in your chest. You would sit back, you would smile, you would feel like you did something. Now you close a good trade and you move to the next thing. You do not sit in it. You do not mark it. It just goes into the column with the other trades and you move on. You are worried this means the wins do not matter to you anymore. Maybe they matter differently. Maybe they used to matter because they proved you could do it, and now they just matter because they are part of doing it. There is a setup you have been watching for 2 weeks. It is not triggered yet. You know what you will do when it does. You have the levels. You have the plan. And you are not thinking about it. You are just waiting. This used to make you anxious. The waiting. You used to need it to happen so you could do something. Now you are fine if it never happens. You are fine if it sets up next week, or next month, or not at all. You think this means you are not hungry anymore. Maybe it means you stopped needing the market to perform for you on your timeline. You deleted a Discord. You were in it for a year. It was active. People were helpful, but you stopped going in there. Not because of drama, not because it was bad, because every time you opened it, you felt like you were putting on a costume. The language people used, the way they talked about trades, the energy of it. It used to feel like your language and your energy, and now it feels like someone else's, and you are trying to translate in real time, and it is exhausting. You think this means you outgrew the community? Maybe. Or maybe you just outgrew the version of yourself that needed that kind of community. You are about to close your charts, not because the day is over, because you are done, not tired, not frustrated, just done. You looked at what you needed to look at, you did what you needed to do, and now there is nothing else. This used to feel impossible. You used to stay in front of the screen even when there was nothing to do, because leaving felt like quitting. Now you close it and you do something else. And you do not think about it until you need to think about it again. You think this is discipline. Maybe. Or maybe it is just that you stopped believing that more screen time equals more edge. You are sitting with all of this. The flatness, the quiet, the absence of things that used to be there, the presence of things you do not recognize yet. You think it means you are regressing. You think it means you are about to fail, right when you were supposed to break through. You are looking at all of this like evidence that you are moving backward. You are not moving backward, but you do not believe that yet. You are interpreting every single piece of this as loss, the lack of excitement, the lack of obsession, the lack of need. You think those things were what made you a traitor. You think without them, you are not a traitor anymore. You think you need to get them back, or you need to leave. You are probably going to do one of those 2 things. You are probably going to force yourself back into the behaviors that do not fit anymore, and it is going to feel like wearing someone else's skin. Or you are going to walk away and tell yourself it was a good run and you gave it a real shot, and some people are built for this, and some people are not, and maybe you are not. And both of those choices are going to feel like the right choice because they are both a decision. And right now, a decision feels better than this in-between place where you do not know what you are anymore. But there is a third thing you could do. You could just stay here, in this spot, where it feels like nothing, where you do not recognize yourself, where you are doing the same things, but they feel different, and you do not know if different is good. You could stay here without deciding what it means. You could trade from here. You could see what happens when you stop trying to get back to the version of yourself that needed it to feel like something. You will not do that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because staying here requires you to trust something you have no evidence for. It requires you to believe that the thing that feels like dying might actually be changing, and you do not have any proof of that. All you have is this feeling, this flat, quiet, unrecognizable feeling, and that is not enough. So you are going to make a choice. You are going to go back or you are going to leave. And either way, you are going to miss what was about to happen if you had just stayed.